Alrighty. Apple says it's 4:02, and we will call this special meeting of the Board of Selectmen on July 13th at 4 o'clock to order. And we're going to, under the first item, we'll go into executive session and make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss strategy regarding the federal acknowledgement petition 401 of the Scotticook Indian Tribe.
Second.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
So at this time, Joyce is going to move folks out.
You can vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
You could
Aye.
thank you.
We vote.
Okay.
Just let me know when you're all set, Joyce.
I'm just waiting for Joe Agley. Looks like he's having trouble.
Oh, there he comes. Alrighty, all set.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out in the waiting room. Jeff's just going to give us a wrap up and information on the comments that were submitted under this application.
Is this a special meeting or a regular meeting?
A special meeting.
What is the agenda item listed as?
So it says executive session update from special counsel Jeff Sienkiewicz regarding federal acknowledgement petition 401 Scotticook Indian Tribe, Connecticut application comments.
Okay, so just to bring the public up to date, on July 5th, the town of Kent, back up. The Scotticook Indian Tribe has a petition pending for federal acknowledgement. It was published, I think, around April 1st. The petition itself was published with a notice in the Federal Register that allowed interested parties such as the town of Kent until July 5th to submit written comments concerning the petition. In the petition, the Scotticook Indian Tribe is seeking a federal acknowledgement as an Indian tribe, which would allow it to receive, would have certain rights and benefits of basically a sovereign government within the town of Kent, and would allow for a lot of things that are not usual for a property owner in Kent. So in connection with that petition, we joined with the Attorney General, William Tong, and with the Kent School to file joint comments regarding the petition. And to do that, we reviewed the evidence that they had cited. We were pretty much familiar with the prior history from our probably 25 or 30 year involvement with the Scotticook Tribal Nation. And we did submit comments that would be considered to be in opposition to the petition, would actually probably be considered to be strongly in opposition to the petition. And those were submitted to the Office of Federal Acknowledgement on July 5th. And I assume that they will be published at some point on the Office of Federal Acknowledgement's website. We have not heard from any other parties that might have commented, but I expect there will be some other comments, either for or against. And the next step would really be, I think, the next step would be up to the Schaghticoke Indian Tribe. They'll be given an opportunity to respond to our comments. They'll be given an opportunity, I believe, to submit additional evidence if they feel it appropriate. And you know, the timing is a little bit murky. They'll probably be allowed to extensions of time, but eventually they will withdraw their application, or there'll be what's called a phase 1 determination as to whether the members descend from a historical tribe and whether they have a governing document. And the phase 1 is really designed to weed out parties that are, or groups that are clearly not going to be recognized. We have also requested that the department make a determination as to whether or not the SIT constitutes a splinter group of the historic tribe and is therefore not eligible for acknowledgement.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the update. So we're basically in a holding pattern, waiting for the next step.
Correct.
Alrighty, we're going to move on to number 3, which is going to send us back into executive session. And Jeff, we're all set. If you don't want to hang on here, appreciate the time and the information.
No problem. I appreciate, I love Kent as a client. Okay, I'm going to leave the
Thank you.
meeting though. Okay, have
Thanks,
a good
Jeff.
evening. Bye now.
So we do not expect this executive session to be as lengthy as the previous one. I will make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the social services assistant candidate and invite in social services director Samantha Hassenflug.
What time?
I'm sorry.
4:53.
Oh, yeah, I didn't. You were cut off a little bit at 4:54. I need a second for that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And we'll just wait a moment for Joyce to move
If you, I could, let me know and I'll rearrange my schedule.
All right, thank you.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. We all set, Joyce?
Yes.
Thanks. All righty. I would like to make a motion to approve the hiring of candidate Rosemary Jones for the position of social services assistant with a start date of July 18th at an hourly rate of $17.30 and at an average of 14 hours per week.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Kudos and thanks to Joyce and Samantha for getting through the applications and the interview process. Looking forward to getting an assistant for you. All those in favor? Aye. Thanks. Thanks, Samantha. Get you out of the hot seat now.
Thank you.
All righty. Next on our agenda is the discussion of the Board of Ed proposal. And Scott, I'm gonna bring you in on the on spotlight so we can see you, because we have a lot of people. And if you'd like anyone else, if you want Superintendent Carter,
Yep, Lisa's also here. Lisa Carter's here, our superintendent.
let's see. There we go. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to turn the floor over to both of you.
Thank you, Jean. Hopefully the three of you have gotten a chance to read the short little paragraph I sent, just kind of outlining our proposal. Basically after the shooting in Uvalde, we've been re-examining our security protocols and systems. And as a part of that discussion, we received a recommendation from our safety committee to look into hiring a school resource officer for Kent Center School. So the Board of Education began looking at the different options for bringing somebody into the school like that. And the option, when we compared the options that were available to us, we decided that what we think would provide the most security would be to have a second state trooper assigned to Kent as a school resource officer. The hurdle for that solution for the Board of Education is that we only need this officer for 180 days, 185 days a year. So I know there's been some discussion in town, and I think also on the Noise and Safety Committee, about looking for ways to bring more police presence to Kent during the summer. So the Board of Education's proposal to the Board of Selectmen is that we essentially team up. We request a second state trooper for Kent to be assigned to the school, to the Kent Center School, while school is in session, and that we split the cost of that trooper proportionally in our separate budgets. If we decided to go forward with this plan, it would probably take a little bit more discussion to nail down the details of exactly how that split would be, but it would essentially be a 70%, 30% split, with the Board of Education taking 70% of it. We were quoted a price from Troop L of $187,000 to bring a second state trooper to the town. So that if we did that 70-30 split, that's roughly $129,000 on the Board of Education budget and roughly $58,000 on the Board of Selectmen budget. The other option open to us would be to hire our own, but if we hired our own, we would not be able to hire a current police officer. We would need to hire a retired police officer who could serve as what is called a school safety officer. They are not able to be as well armed as a state trooper. It brings a little bit more management for us, and having to schedule yearly training, purchase firearms, that sort of thing. And they are not able to act as law enforcement. So in the case of a lesser emergency, or even a big emergency, they would be in the same position as us, essentially having to dial 911 and do our best until we receive the police support. Because of the where we're located, the large response time from Troop L. I know we do have a resident trooper in town, but he's not here every day, and there are weekdays that he's not scheduled in Kent, and he's busy with other things. We feel that the most responsible course is to have an officer stationed at Kent Center School, and we're hoping that this might be an opportunity to solve two problems with one stone, so to speak. We could get the security that we feel is required at Kent Center School, and at the same time be teaming up to bring more police presence to Kent during the summer, the busy months, help with in town or wherever you feel it's needed. I think that's, in a nutshell, the proposal. I don't know, Lisa, if there's anything you'd like to add or anything that I left off or left out, and we'd certainly be willing to answer any questions.
No, Scott, I think you did a great job. This information all came from a lot of conversation with Troop L. So they're very interested in helping us and supporting us however they can. And I also spoke to several other school districts and to the New Milford Police Department to understand how they were working as well. And so what Scott has described really seems to be the best solution for Kent. Should just be the direction that the town and the Board of Ed.
Thanks, Dr. Carter. I think it's a great idea. I think it solves a lot of, it fills gaps for the school. It also fills some great gaps for our town. We are, as I've said for, a couple of years now, we're at that place where we need to increase our law enforcement support within the town, especially on those high traffic on the weekends and the summer times. And as Scott said, with the response time, it could be 35, 25, any minute is a long time when you have an active shooter situation in a school, and having the right person located, the right resources in the right place. That's what public safety is all about. And having this person who is trained and comes as a turnkey position, like Scott was saying, if we hired someone, if the school hired someone, you're also responsible to make sure the training, the firearms training, their annual training, the state police, that all comes turnkey. They're going through posts, they're going through a standardized training, they're training with their firearms on a regular basis. So you get that, what you would honestly probably be chasing as the town and the school would be in charge of that person. You're getting all that in this turnkey person. So I think I don't see a downside. It's a big ticket item, but I truly think that it's worth investing.
And the other benefit for us of the state trooper is just, if we were to hire our own, what would be called a school security officer, if that person is sick one day, we don't have a sub. When that person has to do their yearly training for a week, we don't have a sub for them.
Right.
With the state trooper, they're able to sub people in, I assume it would be one person generally, but on a sick day, somebody else could show up. And when they're scheduled for training, they could rotate somebody else in to cover that position for us. The only other thing I want to mention is it's a bit of a process. I mean, we would have our own process to go through here in town, of course, to get it approved. But if we do that here in town and get to the end of that process here, once Gene requests a second state trooper from Troop L, it's anywhere from 1 to 2 months before that trooper is actually present in town and at the school. So at this point, even if we're running full speed ahead and hitting all the marks on time, we're looking at possibly October before we would be able to have somebody in the school with this.
So I'm going to just open it up. Rufus and Glenn would like your comments, questions.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Thanks. Scott and Lisa, thank you for your reports. Scott, thanks for your email. I read your email. When I saw that, yes, the first thing I thought of was, there's a need that you need met, unfortunately, with another school shooting in Uvalde and all of this. But being on the Noise and Traffic Committee, as I am, we've already made one recommendation to this board about signage in town, and next we're going to make a recommendation about enforcement, and that does involve talk of perhaps another trooper, which we have done so. As a committee, we have talked about maybe trying to get another trooper here in Kent on weekends, maybe Friday through Saturday. So I don't know if we need a second trooper, let's say on a Wednesday in July. That's up for discussion here, but I do know that members of my committee will be interested in this request. I think it's needed. I think it's needed in a variety of areas in this town. As Gene, you mentioned, it's a big nut. I mean, both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed, we were asked this last budgetary season to chop off quite a bit of our budgets. This would be putting quite a bit back on. How could we do that? Where would these monies come from? I don't know. So
This would be, yeah, we would have to, the next step is to tonight, hopefully make a recommendation to go to the Board of Finance, and then once through the Board of Finance, it would need to go to a town vote because we're expanding the
yes,
budget.
yes.
And Glenn, I agree with you. It was a tough budget season, and to be 100% honest, I am not thrilled to have to come here and ask for more money. I mean, I think it's a sad commentary on the world we're living in today. I don't think the world is getting any less crazy. And I don't look forward to possibly defending this decision of cops versus teachers, essentially, gaining a cop and then being asked to, having pressure put on us against teachers. I just feel the consequences are so great, when this sort of thing happens. And without our own police department here, it's just, God forbid anything like that ever did happen, we'd be waiting for so long, for some help. And I think, with our two needs possibly dovetailing so well, this might be the moment where we could take this opportunity and split the cost. It would create some tension around budget time. You're probably right, but I believe it's the right thing to do. I think it's what we need. And I think we're just going to have to do our best with that part of it,
And I think honestly, it's a great opportunity for the two boards, obviously, to work together, but it's a great opportunity to take that smaller step of this second trooper. We know where the needs are. We know the needs are increased on the weekends in the summertime, and that's when school is out. So the two just dovetailing right into each other. I think it's a great partnership that will help protect our town, protect our students, protect our teachers. And it's the time to do it.
No, that's quite a commentary. I mean, in my committee, all right, it's just about trying to get people to slow down on Main Street. Your conversations are just much more harrowing. So at least, you're having those and you're coming to us with this request, and I appreciate that. So, but it is a commentary on our country these days.
Rufus, do you want to hop in with anything?
I have a lot of questions. Gene, the contract with the state trooper that we have, that's based on what? 50 weeks a year or 52?
It's an all year round contract.
2 weeks, 5 days a week,
5 on,
40
5
hours
off.
a week.
Yep. I'd have to look at the contract, but it's a full-time.
It's a full-time 40, so it's 200 and whatever. I can't do the math in my head, but and the reason I brought that up, Scott, the hours that you would want the trooper at KCS are what?
We would like them there during school hours. There's been some discussion, we have some days where students are not in the building, but staff is on training days. And there's been some discussion of maybe including those days in our portion as well. I think if we got past this first hurdle and agreed to move forward with it, that it would require just a little bit more discussion between our boards as to exactly how that split is made. It wouldn't affect the total cost to the taxpayers. It would.
No,
more-
I
more
was
of a
surprised
bookkeeping,
that, I was surprised that you're 70-30 because I thought it would be less for you and more for us, because I can't see a trooper at KCS for 8 hours.
Well, what I did,
School day's not that long.
you're right, Rufus, and that's what I meant when I said we would probably require a little fine tuning on that. But what I did to get that 70-30 split was actually like a 68.5, 31.5% split. But what I did is I took 365 days, I subtracted out weekends, subtracted 104,
Right.
and then I put the 180 over the remainder of that. And so it's a roughly a 70-30 split if you do it that way. But you're right. I mean, gosh, I'd have to add up the hours quick in my head. We'd want them there a little bit before and probably a little bit after, and maybe sometimes, during a basketball game or something. So
Activities and after-school activities.
yeah, I think on the days we had them, we'd be pretty close to the 8 hours. But if not, maybe we could work out some system if we were taking 6 hours and we take those leftover hours and we're able to put them on, on a weekend for the town or something like that. That's, I think that would be the second step conversation to kind of,
Yeah, with the troop.
hammer out those
Yeah.
details.
Yeah,
But I think the overall consideration, what we're considering is asking the town for $187,000 more dollars. And that would be constant, no matter how we decided to split it between us. It wouldn't affect our overall proposal as far as taxpayers are concerned.
so if Dr. Carter, Scott, or the board have no other questions, I'd like to open it to the public who are here at the meeting for one round of questions or comments. Preferably if you can raise your virtual hand or turn your video on and wave. Joyce and I will scan the panes for anybody who wants to ask a question or a comment. Oh, I just saw a hand. Barbara. You're on mute, Barbara. You're still on mute. There you go.
Sorry. Two questions. One, has there been any discussion about cost sharing with another town in the region? And two, what would the trooper be doing all day? Visiting classrooms or sitting in an office, or what does that look like?
We haven't discussed sharing with another town in the region because I'm not, we'd be in session during the same time. I think we'd be wanting that trooper at the same exact time during the day. So I'm not sure how that would work unless you're talking about with other towns, just as, the resident trooper, and that may be something we could explore. I'm not sure how that would work out. And as far as, what the trooper would be doing during the day, I mean, some of that would be left to Michelle. Some of it, we wouldn't want to go into too much detail about where they would be stationed in the school just for security reasons. But we do anticipate that there would be the ability to have some, work with the students, some presentations from time to time. I believe the state troopers are trained in the new DARE program. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa.
That's correct. That program has been significantly updated from what we all remember as the old DARE program. It's much more contemporary. And I think engaging for students. And I think there are other things. There's just checking the perimeter of the building. The only way that there's a lot of research that I have read that says there are no guarantees that this is going to be helpful. And we know that in certain circumstances, certainly in Uvalde and Parkland, both had security officers, and that was not a deterrent to preventing those horrible tragedies from happening. But that's also part of that is due to failures of the system. So for this to be successful, need to be sure that the perimeter of the school is tight. So the school resource officer would be there during the day to make sure that all of the doors are always closed, to be monitoring the security video cameras, which is a hard thing for the principal and the sports staff to do during the day. And then teaching those, some of the programs that they teach. So it helps the community build a good relationship with law enforcement.
Right. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sharing a trooper with another school, I'm not sure that would be possible within Region 1 because Troop L, Kent, the Kent Center School the town of Kent are is the only town within the jurisdiction of Troop L. All of the other towns in Region 1 are within the jurisdiction of Troop B. So I'd have to have a little conversation with both of those barracks to see if that's possible.
And I think the goal is really to have on-site presence of law enforcement. And if we were to share with another town, then you would have to, which days are the days, and your risk goes up. The other piece to this SRO, and they, obviously any law enforcement don't discuss day-to-day operations. And that's how they do their job and do their job well. But another big piece of this is the engagement with students. So as community policing has done very well in our town for many years, a lot of what they're going to be doing is creating these relationships with the young people at the school to get ahead of any potential, to understand potential concerns, or if someone's in crisis, and they're trained to do this. Another big piece is that connectivity with our resident state trooper. Our resident state trooper is the lion's share of what he does is community policing, which is creating relationships, investigating crimes, investigating complaints, and also building relationships. So having that connectivity of someone who's devoted to the campus, but then also creating that engagement and relationship with the town's law enforcement is going to be, it's just a big added value to the town as a whole.
I'd like to ask Scott or Jean, either one, for our resident trooper that we have now, how often is he at Kent Center School? You have any idea? Does he come in? I see him around there in the morning, sometimes parked over there, whatever, but currently, how much exposure is our trooper of his time is over there?
That would probably be best for Michelle, who's not here tonight, unfortunately, but I know he's there in the morning often. I think less so lately, but certainly never all day. And when it was a regular thing in the morning, it was during drop off. It was to show a presence during drop off, and then I believe not much longer than that.
Yeah, and it's really it depends day to day, Rufus, on what his caseload is, what else is going on in the town. It obviously varies from day to day. we have a couple more questions. So if you're good with that, I'm gonna keep going. Lynn, do you want to ask your question, Lynn Worthington?
Sure, thank you. One thing is, I do believe that when the troopers come from Troop L, their clock starts when they leave Troop L.
Yes,
You're
that's
not going to
correct.
get a full 8 hours, isn't that
Right.
correct?
Thanks for that, Lynn. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Their travel time to their base station is included in their day.
So essentially, you've got a little more than 6 hours in a day.
Thanks for that, Lynn.
Quick question. I wondered how much research the school officials have done about like how many troopers fulfill this role of SRO out of Troop L, and have they spoken to anyone from those towns or school districts who have an SRO? I believe Burlington might be one based on a list I saw on the state of Connecticut's website. But it would be nice to hear from one of them about the experience and how it works and how much time they actually get and how much time the trooper is actually called away for emergencies. Because that was one thing that they spoke about on Monday night. It is a caveat that any resident trooper can be pulled away.
Yep.
Or any trooper, I should say.
Yep. Lisa, do you want to take that one? You were the.
Sure. I mean, I have not spoken to the superintendent over in Region 10. I know, but I know that they're happy with their decision in Litchfield. I think what they've done is something a little bit different. They have added a second trooper who then will supervise school security officers. So that school resource officer will go from school to school and sort of check on how the school security officers will do. But that school resource officer is dedicated to the district for those days. But I can very easily reach out to either of those superintendents and talk to them.
You know, as far as how often they'd be pulled away, I think that's really hard to know, Lynn.
Right.
And I also think that this has been fairly recent additions for some of these school districts. And so they won't have a lot of data. I know that I think New Milford's had school resource officer in their high school for a while, but they only just recently added them to their elementary school. So this has been, I think Uvalde rocked everybody's world. I think it was just like, how many more of these incidents are we going to have and what can we do? And so there is a lot more conversation among school districts in Connecticut to understand, is this something that we should be doing now? So I'm working with one other school in Region 1 to do the same level of research for them with respect to Troop B. And another is just asking for the research. So the topic is becoming more of a discussion. But I think, as you're all saying, because of the expense and the unpredictability of all of this, I mean, we could go for years and hopefully, thank God, would not have an incident. But if we did, would we all be saying, oh my goodness, should we have made a different decision? And I think that's the most challenging, alarming, and frightening aspect of thinking about all of this.
Thanks, Lisa. Lisa Wolak, you put in the chat that you have a question, then we'll go to Rick Osborne.
Hello, this is Lisa Wolak. I just had a quick question. Has the cost of the retired officer been explored as a resource officer?
Yes.
Or can you share with us the cost of that?
Yeah, and so there's some variability there because it would be just like any other position, you know, you'd post an ad for, and there's a range of salary that you could offer depending on how many benefits or how, you know, if they have a family, we'd be offering benefits because it would be a full-time position essentially. There's talk about whether they would need a car. We would have to purchase the firearm. We would have to purchase a computer, some liability insurance, and pay for the training each year. So there's quite a wide window. And if we end up having to go that route, we would have to go back to the Board of Ed and discuss all that and decide which of those we would need. But, you know, at the very low end, it would be around $70,000. And at the top end, it could be as much as $133,000 to hire our own. And again, that comes, you know, with no substitute when they're sick or need training. The training they do receive is not as good as a state trooper, and they are not as well armed, not allowed to be as well armed.
I
And
mean,
those,
I'm sorry, Jean.
no, go ahead.
I mean, it might be unfair to say, but as a retired police officer, I would give that they have about 20 to 25 years experience on the force.
Yep.
Or a trooper, but that's nor here nor there. I did want to make a comment based on the Noise and Safety Committee in regards to the difference between having a resource officer in town or at the school dedicated specifically to the school versus having a state trooper who is in the school but also available to do emergencies. Now, if there is an emergency in school, you now no longer have, or I'm sorry, an emergency in town, you now no longer have that resource officer. So maybe something to explore, since Noise and Safety is likely looking to add a trooper to town, wouldn't that trooper be more beneficial as a full-time trooper in town doing traffic stops and preventative motor vehicle stops, and have a resource officer that is completely dedicated to the school? I know it would be obviously an added expense, but if Noise and Safety is thinking of coming to the town for a trooper, I would think that trooper would be more beneficial across the board, and you would always have a trooper in town versus right now we only have one 5 days a week. We would still run into that issue where we still only have an officer 5 days a week. Just something that I thought
This
about.
could maybe make you be on video. Okay, if you want to be on video.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Rick had a question or comment.
As far as the contract, or let's start with taxes first. I don't see the point in dividing the number up. It's coming out of the same pile of money, so just one budget or the other. Normal contract for a state policeman is rotating basis, 5 on, 3 off. So you're gonna have to look into a contract where you're either gonna be paying them overtime for some of those days that he's there because of they get into his normal days off, and then it's a union problem. And a question from Ms. Carter, has any other town in our region talked about hiring a school officer yet?
I've been asked to make the same kind of inquiry as I was asked to do for Kent and Sharon. And Salisbury Central has asked me for the research on the, effectiveness of having a school resource officer. And so far, and I've asked everybody and said, I'm happy to look into this for you. And those are the only 2 inquiries I got in addition to Kent Center School.
Okay, thank you.
You have any other?
Going on what Rick mentioned with the contract, if we had a second trooper, I think we could come to some arrangement because I think it's crazy to pay overtime if you have 2 troopers, that they could go back and forth and overlap so that we didn't have to pay overtime because of a contract, they'd both be qualified to be in the school.
Right, you always will have a little bit of overtime because of vacations and sick days and just how the calendar works. But I think that the 2 would work in partnership to make sure that that happens as little as possible.
And this is probably better for Lisa, but the way I understand it, we have spoken to them directly about that what we are looking for is a trooper in the school. And that was the price that we were quoted, $187, with the understanding that we would need them 5 days and then the next 5 days, 2 days later. So I'm not sure. I think that might have already been
Dealt with internally with them.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
I think that's the price as with that schedule.
Okay.
Just scanning for any hands up. I don't see any more hands up. So our next step is to decide to move this to the Board of Finance, which I would like to do. In the form of a motion.
She says she doesn't see any hands up, so
Nope.
I,
Now I see Donna's hand up. Donna, you want to go
I-
ahead? Did you have a
Yeah, I'm
question?
sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just, I guess, a little bit confused. We're gonna end up with two state troopers, one who is going to patrol the town and one who's going to be at the school. Is that right? Or are we just
Yes.
only having one state trooper who's going to be in the schools during the school time that's open, and then when the school is closed, then he'll be the town state trooper?
Yeah, what we're proposing, because we would need a full year contract, and the school obviously doesn't need the trooper in the summer. So that's why we're coming to the Board of Selectmen to see if we could dovetail the needs that we have so that we take the trooper, or the trooper would be stationed at the school during the school year, during Monday through Friday. And then when school is out of session, the remainder of that yearly contract would be able to be filled as a second state trooper in town.
Okay.
Even when that trooper is stationed at the school, though, they are able to respond to emergencies in town. So there would be some benefit even during the school year, to the rest of the town.
Okay. Now, the private schools will be hopefully still contributing to the $20,000. Do you think that they might say that $20,000 would afford them the use of this SRO to be on their campuses? Or are you going to have to figure out how their contribution to the offset of the cost of a state trooper, what their expectation is going to be?
Yeah, this really isn't in my lane, but we would want it explicitly stated that this second trooper would be stationed at Kent Center School. And it's my understanding that their contribution to our first state trooper is an attempt to offset some of the property taxes that we lose, with them here and helping out with budgets and the extra need we have with all the students that they bring here for some police presence. So I'm not sure if that would be an issue, but like I said, that's not really my lane and probably shouldn't be speaking about it.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just curious, because it might be something that they come up with and say, hey, you know what, we're giving the town money, so we would like some of that SRO as well.
It's possible, but I think there's a good discussion to be had there. And I think we're in a good position, with what we're proposing, to do that. But
All right, thank you very much. Sorry for the late question.
No worries. I'm going to scan us again here. And I don't see any hands up. So are we ready to make a motion?
Do we need to make a motion or do we need to do some more research? What are we making a motion on here?
It's really to hand this off to the Board of Finance. Because then it would need to go to, it's really, are we supporting the Board of Ed's proposal? And then it would go to the Board of Finance, and then from the Board of Finance, it would go to a town vote if they so recommend.
Glenn, we feel a little bit of urgency about this issue. We were hoping to go to the Board of Finance next week to get this started. As I said, even if we're running at full bore, we're looking at possibly October. If this is something that the Board of Selectmen feels they can't support, then we're going to have to go back and start looking, to hire our own, which is our second choice, obviously, for the reasons I listed. But we would like to be moving forward, and I'm not to pressure you into a decision, but that, from our perspective, we feel a little bit anxious to get this moving one way or the other so that we know what direction we can head to hopefully have somebody in the school as soon as possible, to the beginning of the year.
No, I understand.
Beginning of the year.
And I think that we can, certainly endorse the proposal and go to the Board of Finance, because ultimately it's not our decision anyway. Ultimately, it's going to be a town vote, and as soon as we could set that up, because that's going to be the determinant factor.
Right. And
And
if we get that far down the road and it's a no, that we would like to know sooner than later.
right.
I see.
So, so I'll make a motion. Sorry, I was just typing it up. To support the proposal from the Board of Ed regarding the addition of a school resource officer, and send the proposal to the Board of Finance for consideration.
Second.
So part of the reason why I left it a little bit broad was because, Scott, I just want, and Lisa, if you can just hone your numbers that you got from the troop so that you're prepared to give them to the Board of Finance at their meeting next week.
Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that 187 number is a firm number.
I think so, but I think it's worth checking, and I think we can, based on the discussion that we've heard here, we can ask some of those questions about the shift, 5 on, 3 off, that sort of thing, and make sure that we understand all of the details, and then add to that document that we've already created that we can maybe share with the Board of Finance that shows all of our analysis.
That would be, I think that would be good. All righty. Any questions, Glenn, Rufus?
Could you read so the motion again? It's asking for an SRO for Kent Center School.
Nope, it is to support the Board of Ed's proposal for the addition of a school resource officer, and to send the proposal on to the Board of Finance for consideration.
Okay.
I mean, essentially, I don't want to, I want to fast track this to the Board of Finance and get them involved in the thinking as well, because I don't want to hinder it. And I think this is probably the best option.
Yep.
So, but it's not going to be, certainly not up to me to make a decision, or any one of us. It's going to be the town.
Right. But this is this is our responsibility in order to get it eventually to the voters, is to send it to the Board of Finance, to support the proposal and send it to the Board of Finance.
And Jean, we can provide you with all of the people we've been talking to at Troop L and their contact information that can then go to the Board of Finance as well, because they may find that they need to do some of their own research as well. And so talk to the same people that we have, then everybody's on the same page.
Okay. So unless you have any more questions.
I do. Hello?
I'm looking for the hand. Somebody just. Hi,
Did you see me?
I see you now. Yes.
Okay. Has anyone ever thought about
Can you,
putting a
Diane,
fence
can
around the
you,
school?
Diane, can you just state your name for the record?
Diane Mayer.
Thank you.
This was my husband's idea. Has anyone ever thought about putting a fence up around the school, a chain link fence? Oh, what?
I mean,
A fence isn't good? A fence won't keep people, I know, a wall, you know. Here. Okay,
Diane,
let
we-
my husband talk to you. Be nice, Paul.
Okay. I didn't realize my wife was on the chat.
Oh,
Yeah, that was, my idea is, okay, you don't know how a person's going to react under a stress situation. The people in Uvalde, those officers, everybody would assume that they would have done their job. We see by a video that they didn't necessarily do their job. We see a teacher that would stop a situation. Could you ask all the teachers, would you do something? And that person will say, oh, yes, I would. No, I wouldn't. You don't know. A military person, you don't know until you're confronted with it. Okay, you have to have something that will confront the person no matter what. And to my mind, the thing that would confront a person no matter what is a trained dog, because a dog knows nothing but his commands. A dog will go out and he'll attack that person, and he'll attack him until he is killed by the assailant. And if you had something like that in conjunction with a fence system where you had somebody walking the fence with a dog, I'm pretty sure that the average person is going to think twice, because you can't con a dog. You can't do anything to a dog to make him say, oh, okay, I won't bite you today because I feel sorry about you. When the dog is given the command, he'll attack. That's just my mind. And I am all for a state trooper. I'm not against the state trooper, but I think you have to have more than that. And then a state trooper, I know myself that when I go to a school and I see the state trooper's car parked in front of the school, I'm pretty sure there's a state trooper inside, and I might think twice about doing something. So I think if you have a trooper that's there, or nothing more than a car there, I know I used to be a truck driver, okay, for many years. The state of Pennsylvania would park a disabled a cruiser, and they park it in the middle of the highway. The thing didn't even have an engine. But when people saw that cruiser, and they would have dummies in it, really, they would have, just a dummy in it. And people saw that, boom, everybody's hitting the brakes. So the thing is, you have to have something that's really a deterrent. And to me, a fence, a dog, a car, those are all things that don't involve a person, but those are all deterrents. And I think they would be, a good idea. I realize that everything I'm saying is increasing the cost to the town, but the big thing is we're trying to, solve things. Because I live, excuse me for a second, I live off of Route 7. I have asked our state trooper, could you please do something about the fact that where I am, motorcycles are probably going.
Sir, I'm going to
Yes.
cut you off there. We're in the middle of a motion that is specific to a proposal that the Board of Ed brought to us, so we really need to address that.
Okay.
But I appreciate
all
your
right.
feedback for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Sure. So we have a motion on the table to support the proposal from the Board of Ed regarding school resource officer, and to send that proposal onto the Board of Finance for consideration. And we'll take that vote now. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate the time. Appreciate everybody's comments and feedback and questions as well.
Thank you three very much also for hearing us out on this,
Sure.
Scott, Jean,
Just
may I
gonna
and for the short notice, getting us on the agenda.
just absolutely move around the deck chairs a little bit here.
can you guys not hear me?
Okay, moving on to number 5, ARPA recommendations, discussion and possible approval. So we all have that report. It's also in today's folder.
Jean, do you want me to say something?
Sure.
Okay.
Let
Okay,
me,
great. So, are you spotlighting me?
yeah,
Okay, let me know when to go.
got it. Thanks.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to thanked the select board, after the June 22nd meeting. I really appreciate, Jean and her office getting right on the disbursement of up to 400,000 for the first 3 categories that were ratified, of individuals and families, businesses, and nonprofits. And I want to mention, just for the sake of it, of people listening, that application period is open through the end of August now. So if you are somebody who's interested in applying, please go to the town website. But I really appreciate the regular postings and e-news and flyers. And I have heard that applications are coming in. I should probably clarify that our recommendations didn't anticipate a waiting period rather than a rolling disbursement upon presentation of the required application materials. So that was, one of the things that we talked about was no need to wait until August 31st until all of the applications come in to start to process them. I also know that the Kent Volunteer Fire Department has taken steps towards accepting its allocation, which was something that was voted on at the meeting on June 22nd. So today we have the remaining items that are recommended in the categories of municipal projects and infrastructure upgrades, for which allocations of 180,000 and 150,000 respectively have already been ratified. And with the additional 26,000 from within the 180,000 of municipal projects that was voted to go to the Board of Ed for seed funding for their enrichment program.
Great. Thanks, Connie. So I think it makes sense to move on the balance of these recommendations from the ARPA Needs Assessment Committee. I do want to allow the board a little bit of discussion for any questions. Rufus, you had said you had some questions at the last meeting, but I would like to move on this because we have this money sitting in the bank that we really should do something with instead of just having it be there. So Rufus, Glenn, thoughts? I'm just gonna pull my shade down a little bit.
Well, I was on this committee, so I have very few, I have no reservations as to the pool amounts, as to where these are going. So I think at the last meeting, I think maybe Rufus and Jean, maybe you had some questions about some of these disbursements, but otherwise I'm good with this report as it's written, because it still gives us some leeway. I mean, municipal projects, there's $143,000 that remain in that pool. I don't know if entities have applied, but there's, so all of that money may be used, or maybe not quite all of it. But even if all the money is used in all the pools, there's still $11,000 left at the end, which was done by design by the committee to give us some latitude if we felt that something was missed. So
just to clarify, I'm so sorry to cut you off, Glenn.
Sorry.
The 143,000 is the amount that's left right now for applications for nonprofits.
Yes.
So if you direct your attention to pages 10 and 11 of the report, municipal projects has a pool amount of 180,000. 26 of that has already been ratified and allocated to the Board of Ed. The other recommendations within that category include 24,000 for the purchase of hybrid meeting equipment, 10,000 for the purchase of Chromebooks for the land use office and commissioners, 40,000 to Kent seniors, and 80,000 to the Department of Public Works for improvements to or in addition on the break room at the town's garage. So that is that allocation of municipal projects we did make recommendation for the entirety of that 180,000. Infrastructure, again, we made recommendations for the entirety of that pool amount of 150,000. But I think what Glenn was alluding to is that the first 400,000, which comprises the amount that we set aside in reserve for grants for individuals and families, business and nonprofit, if those grant amounts, if those pool amounts are not used up by the applications that we receive, that money would then be available to fund any of the other categories.
Thank you. Said much more eloquently. Thank you. Got it.
Rufus, any?
No, I think in terms of the individual amounts, if there is a large number of applications for that, larger than anticipated or whatever, I don't believe that, it should be a first come, first serve. I think that we should hold off and see the total application pool and whatnot. And maybe there will be 10, 20, 30 smaller amount. But if there is a much larger amount, then I think we need to hold off and wait, because we would expend probably the entire amount, and we might want to have to adjust the maximum amount because of the number of applications.
So you're saying hold off until after this open application period before we ratify the rest, the two other buckets, basically?
No, the bucket that we ratified, but how it's done. If in fact there is a big run on applications, I don't think it should be first come, first serve. That's not fair.
So based on what you're saying, then I need to hold all the applications until after August 31. If I'm understanding.
If there is a big number of people who come in, yes, I think that's fair to everybody. I really do. Because
And she does have to hold off.
the committee did look at, a portion of people who responded, but now that the application, you don't know how many people are going to step forward to try to take advantage.
So in order to do what you wanted, what you're suggesting, she would have to hold off allocating any money until after the application period closes.
Pretty much. I still think that's the right way to do it. I mean, that's the bucket amount that we already did, and maybe we look at the other ones too, because there might be money from other pools that don't get used up that then could go. I'm just saying that I don't know, nobody knows how many people might step forward. So if the application process is from A to Z, you almost have to wait until Z happens and then say, okay, this is what we've got.
That over now?
I have no idea.
Well, let's get out of it.
I still think that's the fair way to do it.
With all due respect, I think that does not jive with what you voted on in June 22nd, because the pools were ratified. So that means 100,000 for individuals, 100,000 for businesses, and 200,000 for nonprofits. And if
As
those
you
are-
said, Connie, if any amounts of money from one of these areas aren't used, they could be used in other areas. All I'm saying is that you guys were basing, your numbers on what you can't anticipate how many individuals might apply. So if you have 200 applications for individual monies where you're planning to give out, I forgot what the number was, 5,000?
For individuals.
That's not gonna come close to covering 200 or
With
more.
due respect, we had a number of conversations about that exact same thing.
That's fine.
Admittedly, Rufus, I fell on the same side as you, but I think that now that our report is here, that we need to get some money in the pockets of people that are in need. And there's $100,000 that could be dispersed. And if
And
there's,
they may not go to the people who really need it. That's all I'm saying.
there is no way to control that. And the application period is open. The applications are coming in. And I don't, I mean, the thing is actually that I don't really think that we're here tonight to decide that, because that's been decided. We're here tonight to decide what happens to the
next.
150,000
Two
that is
buckets.
in the infrastructure improvements category, and the 180 minus 26,000 that's in the municipal projects.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, could I just make a comment here? Okay, just to put things into perspective.
Joe, can you just let us know for the record your name?
Yes, Joe Agley,
Thank
member of the ARPA committee.
Thank
Just
you.
to put things into perspective here, there is $400,000 which is going to individuals, nonprofits, and local businesses to apply. The total amount that is going to municipal projects and infrastructure improvements does not even equal that amount. So, you know, just to compare the two, because Rufus is concerned that there's not enough money which will be going towards the three groups, the individuals, the nonprofits, and the local businesses. To put things into perspective, those are the numbers.
I think I saw Patricia's hand up. Hi, Patricia. Do you want to just
Hello.
state your name for the record?
Patricia Orris,
you.
resident of Kent and a member of the ARPA committee. Rufus, one thing I wanted to explain is that we looked at this $800 and something thousand in two ways. One is to make good those individuals, families, businesses, and nonprofits that suffered loss, but also a secondary goal was to use the funds to undertake some infrastructure and municipal projects that are much needed and that can benefit the entire community. There are people who perhaps are on fixed income, or they went to work every day through COVID, and they too deserve something, we think. And maybe that's better social service programs for seniors. Maybe that's a better some exercise equipment at the Kent Commons Park. Maybe it's a new roof on the sewer system. That most towns are using their money to undertake projects that benefit the entire community, not just those that suffered a loss. And we tried to do a fair distribution between those people that suffered loss and the entire rest of the community who deserves improved infrastructure or services. That was our way of looking at it, and why it's divided up the way it is.
Patricia, I think you guys did a great job. I'm not arguing with any of it except for the individual application process. For that one thing, I think you wait until you find out how many. That's it.
Again, I would just ask
I
that
think
we
that
spend
the first
time.
come, first serve is wrong. I said it before, I say it again, and I'm done.
I would just
Right.
ask again that we spend the time tonight talking about the things that we've yet to decide rather than rehashing what we've already decided.
Yeah. May I speak, Jean?
Is that Ruth? Sorry,
Yeah, just a quick.
you
I
can just
think
state your name
citizens-
for the record, Ruth.
Sorry, Ruth Epstein. I'm also on the ARPA committee. I think it's a disservice for us to be sitting on this money so long. I think we have gone over this for a year and come up with these, and I think they're fair. And I think this money has to get out to the people who really need it. And as Connie and everybody else has said, you've already determined. So we're now just looking at the other two categories, and I think we really ought to get on with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. So I would like to move forward. I'm gonna make a motion that we ratify the balance of the recommendations of the ARPA committee made in their report submitted to the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Glenn seconded. Any discussion, Rufus, Glenn? Alrighty.
I'm good
We'll
with it.
take a vote at your leisure. All those in favor
Aye.
signify by saying aye. Thank you. Alrighty. Again, to the ARPA committee, big thanks, big kudos. This was a big job. You did a thorough, fair assessment, and it was a lot of work, and I appreciate it. The board appreciates it, and the town appreciates it. And I also want to throw out kudos to and thanks to Barbara Herbst, the treasurer. She was the driving force to getting all of that, the applications and the flyers and the Facebook posts, and keeping a fire lit under my desk chair to make sure that all of the materials got out and got posted and got shared with the public. And she personally, over a weekend, walked a lot of materials around to a lot of places in town. So big thanks to Barbara as well.
Thank you, Selectmen. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Committee.
So gonna move the deck chairs around. Thanks again, Connie. Get you out of the hot seat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to the last topic, discussion and approval of SLR providing construction, engineering, and inspection services for the first phase of the streetscape project. So we had been told by SLR some months ago that they weren't going to be able to provide this inspection services. So we went to a clerk of the works sort of model. We have not, I just checked Indeed. Joyce, if you can just confirm, have we received any applications through other through other means? I didn't think so. So we don't have anything close to a qualified applicant. There was more recent discussion with SLR, and they have come back and told us that they can extend the current contract that they have with the town to provide those the construction, engineering, and inspection services. And it likely will be about 10% of the cost of the project, in the $200,000 range. And we heard back from someone at SLR with that confirmation, and that it would be, they would come back with just a formal extension of the current agreement. So it would be, we basically need to just agree so we can get this moving forward. Mather has gotten approval from the Park and Rec Commission to store some earth materials over in a corner of the parking lot at the Kent Commons. They got that okay from them the other night. They have granite curbing, probably in transit. They had surveyors out, I believe yesterday. We had a quick huddle with them on Monday morning. They just sent me today a approval for a sign that they're required to put up for the project by DOT. So things are moving along. We have the basic work plan, which I outlined in the newsletter, all put out. And so we need to just agree that we can go forward with this. The tasks and the duties of this inspector is, I think you can see in the folder is out, they're all outlined from SLR. Includes inspection and oversight of the construction to ensure procedures and materials comply with plans and specifications, contractors' activity inspection and documentation. They would provide daily report do daily report preparation. They examine the quality of the installations for conformity to standards and specs, interpret drawings and specifications, need accurate and complete records maintenance, active participation in any project meetings, contractor schedule monitoring, inspection of paint and coating, field testing of soils, concrete, any materials, sampling, assistance with change order review and completion, monitoring and documentation of materials delivered and incorporated into the work, assistance with semi-final, final inspections, punch list preparation and completion monitoring, and assistance with smooth and timely project closeout. So it's a pretty big cadre of tasks and duties that they would have. And I'd like to make a motion, or I'm going to make a motion to extend the current agreement with SLR to include construction, engineering, and inspection services.
Second.
Thanks. Does the board have any questions? None?
Nope.
Barbara, did you have your hand up, or was that a moth that you were, your friendly moth?
No, I must have been very silent. My light went off because it doesn't think there's anybody. So I was trying to get my light to come back. There we go. So I'll just add in your discussion piece that the cost that's being proposed at this juncture is double what I had already projected. However, the initial appropriation to cover Streetscape 1 has more than enough funding to cover this overrun. All righty. So I will try your minds for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you. I will let the parties know this evening. And that wraps us to the end of our agenda at, according to Apple, 6:21 p.m. I want to thank everybody for persevering through our multiple executive sessions and for the good conversation and respectful conduct of everybody. Everybody have a great night.
You too.